Okay, so I know I was 1-2 for the whole start of the rugby championship thing, but I think to everyone who kind of glazed razors to saying he was going to beat the Pumas to set a tone, uh, I guess I told you so. Let's get into it.
I need all the wins, yeah. Ain't no L's, I gotta get a no call and quits, yeah. Gotta keep on moving no matter how hard it gets.
Back to Baker, Baker with the fit. Kurt Baker in for DC, and this may well do it old glory with the try. The New Zealand Sevens legend, Kurt Baker with the cherry on top.
Can you believe it?
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Online Rugby Podcast, a show brought to you by the Blue Sports Network. I'm your host, Mike Nagaishi, and welcome back. As I said in the cold open, while I was a little we can twist it as a little to moderately wrong onto how the Australia game would go, because that was putting it lightly, would be error in judgment. Perhaps I would be looking for more along the lines of straight up embarrassment of the Wallabies team on national television, worldwide television, I guess. And in comparison, the All Blacks obviously getting stunned. Again, for all y'all who glaze razor, told you so. But let's break it down in terms of takeaways from the game, and also where, specifically in this case, where the All Blacks are going to have to probably look into going, given the fact that they're just not giving enough of, I think, pressure, if you're thinking of that, or even just looks and diversity in regarding not only their attack but also their exit strategy. But biggest things I would probably have to say easy straight off the rip, Chocobars, Mateo Carreras and Moroni were taking easy licks out wide no matter what picks there were. Honestly, it probably should have been 26-10 in the first half. It wasn't for a couple offsides pre the break, specifically with Moroni. It was beautiful. They had so many open opportunities to just cash in. If they just went that little step before, I think it would have been money all day, every day, and that would have set a tone for the first 20 minutes. I wasn't expecting what I did overall out of the whole game. If you're looking at it holistically, the Pumas did everything right. They stopped fast offloads. They were going tight on the line, leaving the back foot a little open to kind of force guys like, a Bowden Barrett, a DMAC, to kind of get those kicks in. But because they were solid up front, their wings could get back in cover, and they're really just pivoting system off of both the wings and their 15. Beautiful in that regard. Really saved them a lot. I mean, yeah, you could let a lot of the wing things go. They had one with Sam Derry where DMAC goes straight down the middle. Bodie runs a quick little support line going towards the hashes. Cross kick it across the field. Sam Derry scores on debut in New Zealand soil. Congratulations to him. But outside of that, a lot of the play was basically shut down from the get-go, and mostly down to penalty kicks. They had a lot of good plays, I want to say, deep down towards the breakdown once things started getting dry, like in the 40th to 50th minute. But we'll go break down why they had to get that desperate later. Overall, if you're looking at it the rest of the way, I would definitely say that the Pumas learned from the English. If you're looking at it, they targeted a lot of the key playmakers. They really put pressure on them, especially for Chocobares and City, to really just push them to go to any other option. And unfortunately, outside of Sever Reese, who played pseudo 9-half for a good little bit, they really didn't have a lot of options. So that's what happens. And going forward, I like that they used a lot of like the Razzie Erasmus specials, especially with that opening try of the second half, to really just get that pump fake to the top, boom, throw it short, but not to the first guy, to the first loose feet, boop, and then dot it in. Beautiful play. I think not only would Razzie Erasmus be proud, I think he probably watched it and would have been impressed. It was a beautiful execution. I don't think they were really expecting it, and they just drove all the way through. Great maul setup from the get-go. Good option to look at moving forward through the rest of the Rugby Championship. I think another thing, and the biggest thing I had to take away, was that Augustine Creevy, my boy, I am sad that you left the Sales Sharks. I understand that you're going to international retirement and possibly look into another contract. Props to you. Get your money. But also, you are a menace off the couch, okay? Are we forgetting the fact that he's 39 years old, kind of pushing into that Julian Montoya area where, he's going to score in the World Cup at almost being 40. Oldest player to do that there. oldest player to do that now in the Rugby Championship. I think it was a great job, great showing for 39 years old, basically coming right off the couch because if I remember correctly from the news announcement that had him included, it was because of a lack of players. I don't understand how Argentina could not have a lack of players after the good 3-ish years that they've had, especially and on top of that the World Cup. Uh, um, but overall, dude was a menace. I don't even think that the All Black bench, which they've been pioneering to have a lot more like bomb squad level talent to come off the bench, whether it's veterans or big physical newbies, bring them onto the pitch and just work house. They haven't been really able to do that the entirety of the way. And while they did do well against Fiji, they struggled against tier 1 Argentina level play. And what can I say other than I'm impressed and very proud of the Pumas? They've come a long way going through 3 coaches in the last 3 years. Excuse me. They've been running through a carousel and a Rolodex of coaches, pretty much like the Wallabies, if not worse. So, all things considered, congratulations. I would have to give my man of the match, obviously, to Pablo Matera. I like that he had more of a passive approach to defense. He wasn't necessarily at every breakdown, but he made himself involved in every facet, whether it was making a tackle, obviously going for the ball late, setting up the defense. He was kind of like a Dwayne Vermeulen type where he would just stand around and just be there when there's an opportunity or put guys in the positions to be successful. And that's obviously what you want to see from your captain. At 6th position, I really think that he is better served having a wider view of the pitch rather than playing at 7 or 8. So all things considered, hats off to you, my boy. And also, let's not forget the biggest thing, in my opinion, to this match. I really think that the All Blacks kicking game is a liability. Now, I feel like a lot of people can't really trust John Kerwin with a lot of the things he says, considering the fact that he glazes the All Blacks and the Blues to an nth degree. But if you're looking at where the All Blacks game is, it's really been not that good. If you take away the fact that Fiji is hot and cold, but also took a lot of 50-50 liabilities off of this, it's kind of insane. If you're looking at it from just the Irish and English tests in, what was it, May to now, it's been pretty downward trendy if you're looking at it. Basically, what Razor had broken down on the breakdown was that he wanted to have the main kicking objective be to make contestable short box kicks or even regular kicks off the boot, kind of punt style, to be in your own half, have your guys compete for it, and kind of play in that box style where they're going to be putting eternal pressure on the other team. And they have the guys to do it. You have a guy like Jordy, massive boot. You have Bodie, great field management, and also pretty decent boot. You have DMAC, one of the most accurate boots in all of rugby, and you still can't pull it off. I don't understand how, but every time you do it, Fiji have capitalized on it. England have definitely capitalized on it. They have made their entire game in those games, really, for the Steinlager series to just put pain and inflict misery on most of the All Black staff until Bowden came on the field and just started wrecking house. Take those away, I feel like the Pumas have overall refined that, and not only that, I think they've innovated on that because they'll play a little bit of volleyball. We saw that in the second try with, I believe it was Carreras who took that in. Okay, I may be blanking on it, but I'm pretty sure it was Carreras. 10, boots it forward, volleyball style, catches it, boom, gone. It was beautiful. They didn't have any defender other than that first defender, and I believe it was Mark Talea. Take that away, they had an open lane outside of Bowden Barrett in the middle. It was beautiful. They just got to keep doing that more often. And to me, I think that's a huge liability when you're not, I would say, not only revising, but also just evolving. You're seeing these problems not only with England. I think Bowden Barrett just being in the form that he's been has saved you more often than not. You're taking away that. You got Fiji with their best athletes in the world who are going to get gassed, and they got exploited in that more often than not. But they also showed where it could be exposed, and you didn't fix it. I don't understand, but yeah, that's basically where I'm at on that game. Overall, I really think that they need to evolve on that kicking game. You can go deeper into it if you really wanted to. I could talk about this for about an hour. Go to my homie on Rugby Passes article on that. Props for keeping your job, I guess. But overall, he breaks it down basically in the same way I would throughout most of the Argentina game and part of the England game. I really recommend you guys dig deep into that. If you guys want to, totally optional reading, but just to kind of get on the same page where I'm at in terms of where the team is and where the team is lacking. After that travesty, let's move on. So we have the Block versus Australia, which, in my opinion, should have been a much tighter game than what it was. I was not expecting a lot of the finessery that went around. I know that Sonny Bill Williams had called Sasha Feinberg a goat. I think when he was like 12 or 13. But this dude is a freak. I don't know who you are. I'm gonna watch your highlights now, and it's uh I failed at my job if I didn't do this earlier. But this kid is amazing. I really think they messed up. Wallabies at least have messed up on the defensive width. They constantly kept going tight and overcorrecting, whether it was wide or tight, and that left a lot of holes. And a team that is drilled like the Springboks, who, while having, I understand, 14 of their vets on that squad that day, they played a lot of trial and error people out there, whether it was Sasha Feinberg, low at 8. You got plenty of options. Grant Williams off the bench, Cobus Reinach starting. You had a lot of younger, more, I would say, necessarily to get blooded and veteran experience needed. You even put Peter Steph Dutoy at 5, which is insane. I don't think I've ever seen him there since 2018 when I first started watching and playing rugby. So there's that. And he was a freak. It was just bad. When you give, like, obviously any team, especially the 2-time World Cup winners, with that kind of space, whether short or wide in different instances, it's just gonna just be it's gonna be a bloodbath. And it was a bloodbath. Just the cynical play overall by the Wallabies, whether it was that big tuck and roll that went dumped over the head of Cobus Reinach. You had another one by Andrew Kellaway. Let's see what else. You had one questionable headshot with Lukan Salakaia-Loto. It was just yellow cards out the wazoo. And don't get me wrong, I am not complaining. I really think that Andrew Kellaway one on Cobus Reinach probably should have been a red. That may just be me in terms of the bias on that regard. But to me, if you're dumping someone and landing them on their head, that's a whole nother issue. Now, the Jesse Krill tackle, you could look at it the same way. But if you're looking at the rule book, he bent over initially, shoulder went first, attempt to wrap was made. There was lower, the defending player was lower, mitigating standards. And on top of that, he hit with his head first. So he led with his head, and it didn't get the exact result that he wanted, and he almost ended breaking up his neck. So luckily he's still alive, but, we're you see what I'm saying? It's just not a good look overall. Just totally cynical, trying to eck out penalties, and I some of them were given the right call. Other ones I think should have been even more, but same thing like with the All Blacks. A lot of passing offenses, especially just in the regard of forward passing, had a lot of offsides, some dumping. Now, the All Blacks did not have dumping, but they did have some egregious forward passes that I cannot believe a pro team of that level could do on such an obvious play call. But whatever. Maybe plays hopefully fast that the ref don't see it. But with anything, just like with the All Blacks, in my opinion, the offense, I think, lacked substance in this game. Now, the All Blacks, in my personal opinion, have lacked substance really for a while, probably since Steve Hansen left in terms of their attack. Now, they did have a little resurgence with Joe Schmidt in the World Cup that I was very fond of. Very, very fond of. But to me, I think there needs to be more, I want to say, well, what's a nice word of putting it? Less Fozzie hands down the line in a politically correct term, and more actual structuring, play developing, and movement and dynamicism, more along the lines of just interplay between forwards and backs, but also from upstairs in the booth down to the field in terms of how the structure is going to be, setting up plays long before they happen, kind of in that George Ford mold that I don't even really see a lot of teams doing outside of maybe Jack Crowley. So seeing kind of a pattern here. Come on, guys. It's Northern Hemisphere ball has been much better of recent late. Perhaps I should talk about it more. Perhaps I should. Maybe I'll wake up at 4 a.m. and do it. I don't know. We'll see. But we'll get into that a little later. But it is. I can't keep watching games and torturing myself with no substance on attack and sometimes on defense. Now, don't get me wrong, Australia, I really had high hopes for you coming into this game. I had hope that you would at least win by a try, perhaps a drop goal. I had hope. It was a lot closer, wider of a margin than it was for the Pumas, but why? How do you fumble the bag? I can't. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Overall, looking at the rest of the block, which is in my opinion what the only real thing that was good about this game. Let's start off with one thing: penalties. If you're looking at it, basically from the 60th minute when I marked this down, and it was egregiously worse. Don't get me wrong. Towards the end, I think they had 2 yellow cards in there for the Springboks, but at the time, basically a little over 2-1 on the penalty margin, being 14-7. It's just so bad. It's egregious. Not only on any team at any level. You could be a U23 player playing in the U23 World Cup. You could be uh, a U10, U8 little flag team, playing a beach tournament. Any team, you have this amount of penalties and this amount of cards that arguably should have been more in your lineup, and you're not expected to win the game, let alone you're not even expected to put points on the board. I was honestly really surprised that they put 7 points on, but obviously that was against 13 people, and they also had a wide open wing that Andre Pollard was covering 4 people. So all considered, I guess, again, props up to you. Cheese with your wine, give or take. A little cynical, but it'd be like that sometimes. Looking at the block again, second point, I would say Sasha Feinberg is a freak. I really like those late passes. He's really able to sacrifice his body. Now, I don't expect to see this when he's 40. I don't expect to see this when he's 30, 35. But for the time being, to be able to sacrifice your body, put yourself in a position, and dial up the pass at the perfect time where you're probably going to get drilled in the dome, but also definitely get that perfect little deft boop, off is beautiful. I mean, I think any player watching that would be really impressed just in terms of where the pass was, timing, and placement. Obviously, you don't want to put your receiving player or your passing player in a bad spot. You don't want a hospital pass to happen on either regard, but if you're going to make milks, do it the right way. And they kept milking that cow and it was beautiful. But to take that visual out of your mind, let's look into some other things that I think he did well. I really liked his depth strides through contact. If you're looking at that big line break try that he got over, and I will say it was the first second try. It was on that massive break off the kickoff. It was beautiful. I could watch that thing over and over again, and it probably would never get old. Just watching him do that little shimmy, fake the pass inside, fake the pass wide, throw it short, and then just whoop, just run through. I need to see that over and over and over again. Just a masterful play at 10. If I had to compare the 10s at the block position, you're looking at, I guess you could throw in Damien Willemse, but I would say he's more of a 15 now, more than ever. You have Mani Lebok, who is probably your best dynamic in terms of kicker, but also, ball in hand player. He does really well, but I think he goes for a lot of YOLO things that I really think he shouldn't do. And obviously, he plays well through mistakes. I think Rossi Rasmus has said it numerous times, over and over and over again. But to hold his head high and continue to try to play as high of a level as he can, despite these mistakes, is impeccable. But in my personal opinion, obviously, you have Andre Pollard, who's like the game manager, like Alex Smith. You're not going to win off his back, but he will put you in the best position to succeed. I think Sasha Feinberg blends a little bit of the best of all 3 margins in there. He has a little bit of the explosiveness with ball in hand that Damien Willemse has. He has that YOLO mentality that I will sacrifice my body to succeed that Sasha Feinberg has, but he also has just a little bit. He's getting there of that Andre Pollard just poise and overall ability to just will himself off the tee to make success happen. I really like this kid. I really think I should watch more of his highlights. And hopefully for this weekend's game, actually, I think for all of us on the West Coast, it is Friday night. Recording this Wednesday afternoon. It'll be a interesting time. I would love to see him back in the field. Hopefully when they play New Zealand, when and if that happens, it'll be beautiful. Please make it happen. Please. Just Sasha Feinberg in Eden Park or, I guess Christchurch. I have hope. But yeah, dude is a menace. I would love to see him. Also, I thought it was kind of funny. So I think these things are some other little side notes that I put down during the game. Could I have been a little bit nicer about it? No, but oh well. I think for one thing, the funniest thing was Sia isn't fat. I thought, a little bit behind on this, but for Racing 92's owner to basically say that Sia Khaleesi is fat, He's lost his form. He looks inept. Is I want to say the word, but I like limited ad dollars that I get. So we're gonna put it this way: stupid, brainless, uh, challenged mentally, yellow bus mentality. There we go. Short yellow bus mentality. Oh my god. Just to see him do that opening score to make it basically put a statement. The dude puts everything that he has into every game. That's one thing I love about him. Haters may hate how and why he's famous, but if you're looking at form and form alone, the dude is a freak. Nothing is going to stop him from really willing himself and his team to get over the finish line with positive margins. And I'm impressed. He continues to ball out. Many people forget that when he came back and tore his ACL, I think it was twice at that point, and he came back and basically willed the box on a bad bum knee. It was beautiful. I need to see more of that. But I don't know how you get by as a billionaire and you can't see it, but you can be salty if he leaves. But why you got to cut a promo like that? That's one thing. Another thing was take it as the hot take, maybe a little too early, perhaps a little too late to some people, but to me, Kurtley Aronsa is basically Ben Smith with a faster physical edge to him. If you're looking at how he plays, he has that sneaky step that both David Havili and Ben Smith both love to do. That Jordy Nelson, I'm fast but not fast, but also he is that fast. I mean, arguably, I think he's faster than Cheslin Kolbe. You put him anywhere and he balls out. And he has that physical edge. He'll put a head in your chest. He'll run down a kickoff. He'll play grubbing. And on top of that, he can kick. It's beautiful. It's Cheslin Kolbe minus the step. And he kind of has that step. So, uh, it, it, uh, call it a hot take. Call it whatever. It may age like wine. It may age like milk. I don't know. But we'll see. I think we're going to roll with it. I'm kind of on a decent clip right now. Man of the match I have is... not surprising. Sasha Feinberg. I don't think I need to explain that after I basically just told you why he's excellent, and I think you need to watch his highlights. Let's move on. I think another thing that was interesting over the weekend that I saw was a Quade Cooper discussion on a podcast. Blanking on the name. I just wrote down podcast, so we're going to roll with it here. Part of my professionalism, they don't pay me that much. So let's roll. Overall, I think the biggest thing that you have to look at is a lot of the weight, for better or for worse, is on that Lions tour. A monkey could have told you that, and he probably would have been right. But coming from Quade Cooper, I think it makes more sense when he elaborates on it. The clip is on YouTube. You can discuss it how you want. Rewatch it if you need to. But overall, it basically said if you lose the comp, Australia goes 0-3. Say, for example, they skunk it the whole way through. And honestly, probably possible. If that did happen, though, I would be very upset because I would have at one point bought Lions tickets for nothing. But thankfully, I realized the error of my ways and I hastily did not do that. So going over it, if you lose the comp, you probably would go. Now, one could say that would happen, but I wouldn't say at the same rate that he's saying. It would immediately go. Excuse me. I would say it's iffy in that regard because if you're looking at it, obviously Australia and Rugby Australia in general is just hemorrhaging cash. We just lost the Rebels. We're probably going to lose the Force back to Tier 2. And you're probably, if it wasn't for the Brumbies getting bought by Rugby Australia, probably would have lost them. The Waratahs are kind of hanging on with goodwill after this hiring process. That isn't going to last long. If Dan McKellar doesn't pull off his Brumby level form, I don't think that this partnership is going to last more than 2 years. I think you're better off just putting the Fijian guy who you appointed for high performance into the head coaching spot. Or if you really wanted to go deep neck and go down the rabbit hole, you could have put in the offensive coordinator for attack into your head coaching spot. And it probably would have made a little bit more sense than putting in Dan McKellar. But what do I know, right? So being that as it may, I think it would go a lot slower. I think you would obviously, if the Wallabies did end up losing, you would definitely lose the fan base, which you have a limited of. You would definitely have a hit to funding because of that. TV rights would not be as good as they already are because the Wallabies are really, I think, the thing that's holding up Australia because you're playing the All Blacks and whatever. But if the team goes, I think that goes. And obviously, as Quade Cooper said, think of it like an ecosystem. If you have a fish Think of it this way. If you're hunting tuna, okay, you want all the sashimi in the world. You overhunt said tuna. Uh, they lose everything that eats the tuna ends up dying because it has no tuna to eat, i.e. sharks. Uh, all the smaller to medium fish end up getting bigger because they don't have predators. No, blah. Same thing. If you think of it this way, you're looking at it with, let's see, New Zealand being kind of the predator. They would lose out on their best prey. They would basically have the islands in Japan, which is not the greatest options. I think you need Australia for the Super Rugby competition to survive. I personally remember when I first started watching rugby in 2018, when I first started playing in college, it was probably the top, if not in their competition of the world. Obviously, then you had Argentina, you had South Africa. You did not have the islands yet, which should have happened a long time ago, but that's a whole nother story. And at the time, what you had the Premiership, which is balling out. You had the infancy of the MLR, which is still a poverty franchise. You have the top league, I think, was still just getting barely interesting, and you had the at the time the Pro 14, Pro Duh. You had all those French leagues, which I think rightfully so combined and formed the URC. At the time, there was really no real competition. France wasn't that good. Italy wasn't that good. Ireland was good. Ireland was very good. The Premiership was very good. It was very one-sided. It was Sale, ooh, Leicester, Saracens. Can't forget the Patriot cheaters of the North. Oh, yeah, Racing 92. That's really it. You didn't really have a lot of diversity. You didn't have a lot of parity. Now, looking back at it, hindsight 2020, it's worse now. You're looking at competition wise. New Zealand has been basically gutted in terms of all black bolters from the last two World Cups. You have a really lack of development outside of really recently from most franchises outside of the Blues and kind of the Chiefs, who are kind of lagging now behind. The Crusaders are great academies under Razor. That's gone. You have the Hurricanes, who are only really recovering from that transition now. The Highlanders have basically been a feeder and cast-off team for everyone from New Zealand. The Reds are not as competitive as they used to be. They're basically just the Chiefs spoiler team. You have the Force, which was good back in the day, not as good anymore, obviously, just basically another star cast off. The Highlanders of Australia. You you got the Taz, who are, in my opinion, kind of a poverty franchise now. They're kind of what the equivalent of a Sale with 2018 with that. I forget who that coach is. So terrible. Oh, why did I endure watching him? It was before Dupria. I forget his name. I'm blanking on it. Hate on me for what you will, but for all those who know and love Google, you can do it. It's really not that hard to find it. He was terrible, not only to media people, but also just in general as a person. Terrible coach. Yeah, the parity just wasn't there. Now looking at it now, you have the URC, which now has Italy revitalized. You have France on a clip. You have Ireland on a clip still. Welsh kind of making a comeback, kind of not really. England still kind of surviving the Premiership after losing two clubs. And you got the South Africans and Argentinians in the URC. I don't know what to tell you. Eventually in the Six Nations, they're gonna have to have Georgia somewhere in there, and it's not gonna be a good time when they come in. Um, I think that really, if you're looking at Super Rugby as a whole comp, if it wasn't for the MLR and it wasn't for Super Rugby Americas, they'd be close to the bottom. I think the top league has definitely overshadowed them. I just wish that they had streaming rights here so I could watch it, but to hell with American fans, right? If you're looking at the URC, I would watch it if there was not at 4 a.m, but there's that. The Premiership, if it wasn't on the Rugby Network, which I vehemently hate now for reasons I will explain later, there's that. It's just a bad time. If you really wanted to watch why I don't like the Rugby Network and would save me the time, honestly, talking about it, go watch, I believe it was the first 5 or 6 episodes of my podcast. It was when I was still working with Rugby Pass, so your loss, but yeah, go watch it. It'll give me some residuals anyway, so I appreciate your love if you do that. That's some real one energy. But anyway, overall, I'm getting a little sidetracked here. It would take away from a lot of the comp, and honestly, if it took away a lot, you would basically be leaving. Let's see. Some wolves are gone, so you lose in Hong Kong. I guess you'd have Japan, and you'd have, I guess, more of the islands. You probably would have, for the rugby championship, would have to put Samoa, Tonga, Fiji, and Japan in there, just for giggles, I guess. You could maybe put China in there if you feel lucky, or Taiwan. I know they have a team. I do not know how good they are, but yeah, you could do that. And Quay did mention that you could do a championship cup level scenario where you basically do the top half play for one cup and the other half play for another cup. I do like that idea. I think that probably should have been done. And I really think that they're going to have to embrace that Six Nations type of format of basically just being really, you play your international tests like your rugby championship or so, we've without Australia in there first. That'll open up the season for allow the B guys to develop. I think that'll be beautiful for all parties involved. You then have your Champions League somewhere in the middle of the season, so it's kind of like not really like an in-season tournament for the NBA because it actually counts for something, but kind of just club competition between all the clubs. Maybe put that at the end, and then put the actual playoffs at the end of the season where it belongs. Vis-a-vis, you can put it wherever you like, but I think that format would be really beneficial for all parties involved, not only for TV rights, because it keeps everyone interested, keeps the club guys involved, develops a lot of the depth, and also keeps players involved in terms of wanting to win more trophies. As we've seen with the NBA in-season tournament, pretty much trash. But if you're looking at the Champions Cup, which has been going on for how long already? It's been nothing but success, and invigorates a lot of teams. People get to travel. People like traveling, especially with New Zealand Silver Lake deal. I feel like that would be a great idea. You can go to Japan, go see your homies who have left you for better and better financial prospects. They can come here, see a little bit of New Zealand, perhaps have a little bit of an exchange. Maybe you see a couple of Japanese players you like, come to, like Kazuki Himano to the Highlanders, hopes and dreams. But you got that as well. It's a beautiful, beautiful arrangement that I really feel like I should not be the only one championing for. But such as it is, I am the only one championship for it. At least only one vocal enough to talk about it. So being that as it may, it would be interesting, but that would be it. I think you guys can sleep on that. I feel like I've ranted enough to account for the 2 or 3 weeks that I was gone. I don't want to make this any more stupid than it has to be. So we're going to cut it off here. I will see you guys next week for round 2 of the Rugby Championship. Peace.